so I think having a American family really didn't make me feel like I shouldn't be going to therapy or picking up a self-help book or doing like meditation when I was younger. Like my family was very open to that. Even when I told them that I was in recovery, my family was still open to it, except for people who had opinions. Obviously, some people didn't think I should go into recovery. It doesn't work, but here I am 7.5 years later. It definitely works for me. So I had to also face the barrier of trying to share and explain what recovery and mental health is to Asians, especially Asians and Southeast Asians who believe that mental health is just a mental thing. Like, of course, if you're better, you can start drinking like a fish now, right? And I'm like, no, that's not the point of sobriety. And I have to explain what recovery is, what 12-step programs are to people, but you still face those social pressures to give up your sobriety from the Southeast Asian culture. And even people here in America, because you do business with people who drink like a fish, and you have to do the things that all the rich people do, which, if you want to do business, or, I'm just talking from my experience, by the way. I'm not saying that's how business does, but like, I don't want to have a drink. Like, nor do I feel the need to make that other person feel comfortable, right? Like, so I think mental health is not about changing the world. I think that's where we have that misperception. It's not about, oh, you said something to me and now my feelings are hurt, so you need to treat me better. It's about, okay, do I have the tools to be able to manage the world? Because the world isn't always kind like our family is. It's a little cruel, right? Do I have the mental fortitude and the tools to actually face the social media bullies that are out there now? Or anything, like how do I manage my emotions? Some things are unmanageable, but how do I manage that then? Not about it's always hippity-dippity, things are rainbows and butterflies, because that's not the real world either. I think people mistake in mental health that we live in this cloud nine, that everything's gonna feel kumbaya, but that's not true. It's really how do we manage through all of that. And so when I have to navigate mental health between the Asian community and American community, the American community is a lot more forgiving. It's like, oh, you're in recovery, you get applause, and the newer generation, right, of Asian Americans are more accepting of it. I hear a lot of Asian Americans now going to therapy, but sometimes I'm like, oh, what took so long? It's like you're 40, you're just going to therapy. Like, imagine if you would have started 20 years ago, right, or something. And it's just like it's hard to change the mindsets of the older generation, but at least in the newer generation, what I want to do is at least able to destigmatize and show what a sober lifestyle can be like. Somebody who is an advocate for mental health, who's been through it all in mental health journeys. Like, you think therapy is just the beginning? Like, I did a whole lot of other stuff thinking that I needed to be fixed. And so I think the mental health journey is about trying to bridge the unknown to the known, which is like, it's not scary to be sober. It's not scary to accept mental health. It's actually, you just don't know what it's like to actually be healthy, or to have healthy boundaries for yourself, and to actually stand up for yourself. And so I think that's my challenge for today in mental health is the Asian American experience of like, how can we stop saying, oh, but we don't talk about it that much. Actually, we do. It's just that we're trying to change a generation that just can't be changed. How can we educate the newer generation to accept mental health for what it is and for what it's not, and to also unveil addiction, recovery, stuff like that. Addiction and recovery should not be a dirty word. It should actually be an empowering word. And it used to be dirty for me. That's what took me so long to get sober. It's because it was a dirty word. It's like, ooh, you're sober, or ooh, you have an alcohol problem? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, some people in the Asian community would rather hear that you have a drug problem, that you have a cocaine problem, which is, actually kind of messed up, I think. It's like, wow, why would you be more willing to hear that? It's like, oh, but when you say you have an alcohol issue, it's like, ooh. So my thing is actually, we don't need that in our lives, and I'm just here to express that.
Thanks.
4 minutes?
Yeah, no, that was great. I think some of the issues that you spoke to probably resonate with a lot of us here in the audience. As you were talking about your own experience, your own struggles, it reminded me of my own kind of foray into mental health. When I was a young person, I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, and it took me months to come to terms with that diagnosis, because here I was, a second generation Indian American child, straight A student, all the extracurriculars, the like perfect classic stereotypical Asian American young woman, and my parents could not fathom how their perfect child could have something like an eating disorder.
Can I just share just one last thing?
Yeah.
I find that people who judge people for mental health or having some type of addiction, it's usually something with them, something that they feel insecure about, some shame or some insecurity, or maybe you just never know. But like when you share that and you get kicked back, it's usually something with them. So it's not something that I did take it personally for a while, but for eventually, like now, I realize it's not on me, it's actually them.
Yeah, perhaps in my parents' case, perhaps it was just they when our parents come to this country, they see us as kind of the receptacle for all their dreams. They were precariously with us, and in many ways, and they just wanted the best life for me. They couldn't possibly understand why I could feel about myself the way that I did. But I struggled tremendously, in large part because this concept of therapy was just so foreign. This concept of having an eating disorder was so foreign to my parents. In large part, I think because of their heritage and just the cultural stigmatization of mental health issues and eating disorders, especially among South Asians and immigrants to this country. But I think we all struggle with these challenges, and I think that's why having conversations like this are just so important and so urgent and so valuable, because we remind one another that we're not alone, and it's helpful and productive and healthy to talk about what we've all gone through. And with that in mind, I think, Trina, would love to hear from you. There are so many intersecting issues that affect the Asian American AANHPI community, from our immigrant identity to being an adoptee, having a disability, our ethnicity, our LGBTQ status. How do these various issues and lenses interact with and affect people's sense of self and sense of overall mental and emotional well-being? How have they affected you in your own life? What have you seen in the work that you've done over the last several years?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Sejal, is this sort of, I guess, more new concept of like intersectionality, right? So we're not, sometimes people, when you present to someone, you see one side of them, and you don't see sort of the many facets of an individual. So there's a variety of different traits that any given person has. So what language you speak, what social class you're part of, race, ethnicity, disability, all these different things. And so all of those things obviously come together. Well, some of those things can advantage people in different ways, and some of them can disadvantage others in different ways. And I think it's sort of the cumulative effect of some of those disadvantages that can result in someone feeling like, struggling with their emotional wellness. And I think the challenge is that a lot of times people, especially in sort of a behavioral health context, only see the person in the way that they most readily present. So if someone saw me, they might see me as a female first. They might see me as a South Asian female, maybe. But there's other things that, I'm a mother, I'm a professional person. There's all sorts of different things that people bring to this space. And I think the fact that we, as a system, have not really figured out how to embrace this concept of person-centered care. So we're really looking at the entire person as a package, and not just sort of this very myopic perspective. But one thing that's also interesting about sort of, if you look at these different traits, if you look at sort of a cultural group, there are traits of sort of and obviously, I think the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander group is a very broad group, so I'm speaking kind of in generalizations, but there's some elements of being part of this community that that those traits really serve as protective factors in some of these cases, and then other times those can really serve as more challenges to one's sort of mental wellness. So, for instance, you know, you think of sort of this communal aspect of a lot of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander communities feel, where you could be close to your community, you have a lot of sort of identity with like either your race, your ethnicity, close familial bonds. Those things can actually serve to really be protective against, you know, depression or you know, feelings of suicide we've seen, and actually as a protector against, you know, sorry, I lost my, discrimination and oppression. So there's sort of that protective space, but then also there's the